Good morning, folks, and welcome to the Toon Review for this morning's Newcastle United news and press conference reaction show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this morning. Much appreciated. As the manager has, of course, spoke to the media ahead of Monday night's trip to the London Stadium, where we take on West Ham in the penultimate game before the big cup final. And boy, oh boy, that should be a hell of a build-up, but that's all to come next week. The manager's clarified some things this morning regarding Sven Botman. He spoke about Lewis Hall, Anthony Gordon, and trying to, be united moving forward during a little bit of a difficult spell that we're going through at the moment. Nothing was asked. I didn't hear the back end of it because I had stuff to do, but I listened to most of it. But as far as I'm concerned, I didn't hear any questions regarding centre-backs or anything like that. But obviously, the main points that we wanted to know were about Sven Botman, were about why they didn't appeal the red card, what was the thought process behind that. Of course, Lewis Hall's injury and everything like that. So we will get into that. If you do enjoy the show, as usual, please hit that like button. It is very important that we keep the thumbs up coming in so that people like yourselves can find the channel and hopefully subscribe in the future. And of course, if you are new and you like what you see, please do subscribe. Free to do so. But remember to hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload or a live show. You can join the membership, support the channel that way by hitting the join button underneath myself. And of course, if you super chat, which is the $ in the live chat, you will guarantee to get your comment read out on the show. And finally, a big thank you to sponsors Mamaroo Records, based in Whitley Bay. And for all your musical needs, pop in and see Steve. If you can't get into Whitley Bay, please check them out online. That is pinned at the top of the description. Right. Let's get into this, shall we? Because some questions were asked, some were answered. We'll start off with the situation with, of course, Sven Botman. Now, it was a very, very strange day yesterday, wasn't it? Suddenly we were told that the Botman needed surgery. Craig Hope, of course, broke that report, and he broke it, and it turns out to be correct. Susan Fagan, thank you for your super chat. Reading between the lines, I don't think he'll go with Barnes for the final. He'll pick Joe Linton, in my honest opinion. It's difficult to read between the lines. I see where you're coming from with that, Susan, and quite frankly, I have to kind of agree. But if he doesn't go with Harvey Barnes, then for me, Barnes isn't really up there in Eddie's thinking. And they kind of might move him on in the summer, but we'll see what happens with that. But with Sven, of course, Craig Hope broke the story, as I said, and it proves out to be correct. So all those people that were having a real dig at Craig Hope and things like that, he was right. Paul's mic is obscuring the NUFC badge on his jacket. You cheeky shit, Tom. As if I would be wearing an Everton. You can see that Newcastle badge clearly through there. Dear God. Have a word with yourself, Tom Lynch. Anyway, so he was asked about Sven, and this is basically what Eddie had to say, and just really confirming everything that we thought. It was Sven has been trying, and we've been trying to get him back to full fitness. He was very close to the Brighton game, but the day before, he felt something again in his knee. This week, he has had the same discomfort. So it looks like he will have to have an operation. He needs a small operation to clear out some fluid, and then he should be fine again. We hope he should be back in about 8 weeks. So it's minor surgery, but I think that time frame has surprised me. I genuinely believe that if the surgery was going to be minor, it may be 2, 3, 4 weeks of recuperation and then back. But 8 weeks, I mean, that's practically sort of, you're talking back end of the season, aren't you? So you would think to yourself, well, why rush him back? It's pointless taking a risk on Sven Botman at the minute. 8 weeks would see us towards the end of the season. There's no real need by then to throw him in. I mean, look, if we're challenging for a Champions League or European spot and we need a result, then maybe they'll look at it, bringing him in. But I get the feeling that his season could be over. I'm not saying that for definite, but when you look at how close it will be to the end of the season before we get Botman back, you have to kind of think, well, is it worth throwing him back in to the Wolves again, or just give him the time, give him the summer again, both knees sorted out, and then move on. Now, it's not the same knee that he had the ACL injuries on. It's the opposite knee this time. So, it's been very, very difficult for the player himself, hasn't it? Because I'm sure Sven Botman wants to be on the pitch performing. Now, obviously, poor Geordie Josh yesterday, after his after what he put on Instagram, Botman replied and didn't like it very much when I think Geordie Josh sort of, asked the question, is he injury prone? And I think, you know what? I mean, a lot of fans have asked that. There's been a lot of comments on here, a lot of things on social media saying, is Sven Botman, is he injury prone? Is he going to be like another Jonathan Woodgate? It's far too early to describe, to say that, of course. But of course, that'll be a worry. It'll be seriously worrying for Sven Botman as a player as well. So he's still very young, and to have to go through those sort of injuries at that age is difficult. So the mindset of Sven Botman, I mean, he'd be very pissed off. And quite frankly, that's probably why he replied, because I think that's what got him the most. Not about him having to have the operation. I think it's just when he reads things like, is he injury prone? And Botman will, of course, call people out for that, because I think I mean, he only asked the question. He didn't say he was injury prone. He said, is it possible that he is injury prone? But obviously Sven himself didn't like that and wanted to reply. But when you look at the injuries he's had, we need him on the pitch. He's an elite defender. He's absolutely elite. And he proved that when he came back and was thrown straight into the difficult games, of course, at Tottenham and Arsenal. And he played brilliantly in those games. A little rusty at the start against Tottenham, but boy, he got going after that. And I think it's so hard on Sven. It really is. And, we have to take the player into consideration here, because a lot of fans will think, oh, he's injured, he's this, he's that. But the player himself will be going through hell, because he was expecting to come back from a very, very difficult ACL injury to come back from. Came back, got back into the side, looked really good. And then the fluid is built up on the other knee now, which needs minor surgery to drain the fluid, etc. So it's hard. It's hard as a player. But Kush says Woodgate 2.0. I don't agree. I think he's still young enough now. He's not even 25 yet. Give him a chance. But I think it'll be. I just wonder if they'll bring him back before the end of the season, or whether they'll just turn around and say, look, sit with Sven and say, look, get yourself fit. You've got the whole summer to go and work and get yourself back to the powerhouse that we know you are. And, back to the powerhouse to play for Newcastle United. I would rather see that, to be honest. Like I say, it could be a very close call. But we'll see. Chris at Evermore says, hi, mate. I'm sorry, but when a player has missed as much football as Botman has now, you have to ask the question. We can't talk about Wilson, then have double standards as Sven. Feel for the lad, but yes, I do agree. Of course, we have a right to ask questions as fans. Of course we do, and we always will. When there wasn't social media around, people used to talk about exactly the same things in the local pub with all the mates over a pint. They would say the same conversations that we're having on here. I agree it's a worry. Of course it's a worry, but it'll be a worry to the player himself as well. And you can't help getting injured. It's impossible to, you go down your career. You cannot help it. If you're injured, you're injured. You can't tell your body not to break down. But it is a worry. I accept that. And he hasn't played a lot of football over the last 2 years. And that will be affecting his mindset as well. But this will determine what kind of player Sven is, what kind of person he is. Having the attitude to come back and basically shut all the rumours up that he's going to be injured all the time. Because I think when Sven Botman's at his best, he is literally at his best. So, look, we'll have to wait and see on it, but it was confirmed by Eddie this morning. He needs an operation. And I just want to shout out Craig Hope, really, because he took a lot of crap when he reported that. oh, the club haven't said anything. How the hell do you know? And all of this garbage. Well, he was right. Of course he was right. He's not going to put a report out like that and be completely wrong. I don't know where he got the story from, but we'll never know about that. But, he took a risk putting it out there, and he was right. So it's disappointing for us because it seems like all we're getting at the minute is bad news, bad news, bad news. It keeps on going. And then, of course, we'll talk about what he had to say about the West Ham game very shortly, because obviously he has said in the past that it's one game at a time, and he doesn't want to focus on anything too far in the future. But we'll come on to that because he did speak about Anthony Gordon as well. Now, he did say after the game, of course, that they would look to possibly appeal. They'd have another look at it. But Eddie has confirmed, obviously, that they are not going to appeal the red card. This is what he said. We discussed it as a club with the people that we needed to discuss it with, lawyers, etc. So there was a whole big, meeting room with people going on about this and seeing what we could do. We felt that there probably wasn't enough sufficient grounds to win an appeal. There was no intention, however, from Anthony Gordon. Without going into too much detail on the actual event itself, I think the Brighton player sort of bends down and it makes the push look worse. There is no intention from Anthony to hurt anybody, but you have to look at it and think, does this appeal have a chance of being successful? If there is no chance of being successful, what is the point of appealing? So Anthony understands why the club didn't make an appeal. Look, it sounds like they've really gone into a lot of detail to work this out before they've decided not to do it. Do I think there have been people at the club saying, I think we have grounds, I think we can do it? Of course there will be. There'll be that discussion going on. There'll also be discussions, as Eddie said there, with the lawyers, etc. It's a big decision whether to make an appeal or not, because sometimes you can just look foolish when you make an appeal. And I think that they will have looked back to the Fabian Schär one at the start of the season against Southampton and look at that and think, well, hang on a minute, that's not getting rescinded. So what chance have we got of Anthony's getting rescinded? Pretty much zero. And we all, I think most of us felt that as a fan base. He was silly what he did. Yes, Southampton player, I think it was Van Heck, wasn't it? He sort of bent down a little bit. But Gordon's, it wasn't a normal push, was it? It was quite a robust push, and of course it was in the head. He made the most of it, Van Heck, and of course the referee sent him off. You don't get away with that in the Premier League these days. Violent conduct is classed as that. You very rarely get a violent conduct red card rescinded, unless you're one of the cartel, I guess. But we all said after the game, it's pointless appeal, and that's never getting rescinded because of the actual incident itself. But it was good to hear Eddie explain the avenues that they went down to discuss it. It wasn't just a discussion between a couple of people. They got lawyers involved, and so I think they were really serious about trying to get an appeal done. Looked at every avenue to see if the appeal would be successful. But as a club, they've decided not to do it. Now, I don't know how Anthony Gordon would have felt about that. Eddie did say that, the heat of the moment on the pitch, he probably didn't realize the repercussions of getting the red card. It wasn't until after the game where he's sitting down and sort of really thinking about it. Boy, I'm missing the cup final. He missed the last one, of course, because he was cup tied. This was a big opportunity for him, and now he's missing this one. He'd have been disappointed, and I'm pretty sure that he would have been gutted that Newcastle didn't appeal. Michael says, why not appeal? As apparently no further punishment is dished out if rejected. So what if you look stupid? The bigger teams wouldn't give a shit about doing it. Well, look, all I'll say is if they've got lawyers involved, it's pretty much a no-go. If the lawyers turn around and say, no, this is not getting rescinded. And come on, the amount of fans that said after the game or since the incident has happened that there's no way it's getting rescinded. There is no point appealing. Whether you look stupid or not, there's no point to the appeal because you know in your heart of hearts that is not getting rescinded. And 98% of the Newcastle fan base felt that, talking on shows, social media, things like that. Yes, it was unfortunate because of the position of Van Heck dipping down a little bit, but Gordon was silly. Gordon was very silly, and we know he was. But it was a in the moment mad rush to the head, which happens a lot. It does happen in football. It happens in any sport, and unfortunately, he's going to miss the game. It's devastating for him, but it's a learning curve as well. That when you get the big finals like this, you have to be disciplined. You have to make sure that you keep your discipline. And he lost it just for that brief second. He lost his discipline. Yes, Van Heck was pulling at his shirt. That frustrated Anthony Gordon. But what's the biggest frustration is for me is that it was a dead ball anyway. It was offside, and nothing would have happened had Anthony Gordon, got through Van Heck. It would have been whistled down. That is the most annoying thing about it. I'm not saying that the Southampton players' actions weren't shocking, because of course they were. He made the very most of it. But what footballer doesn't these days? A lot of them are a bunch of pansies. They feel a little flick on the head and they go down like they've been, they've got a bullet between the eyes. It's really pathetic the way some modern footballers roll to the floor. You look back at the sort of 80s and things like that, and the crunching tackles that used to get in, or really shocking fouls, and they would just get up and get on with it. A lot of these footballers now, they roll around the floor, and it's, grow up. You know what I mean? But it happens. But unfortunately, that's it for Anthony Gordon. We're not going to see him in the cup final. So Eddie's got some thinking to do ahead of it, of course. Now, he spoke about Lewis Hall as well, which is probably more devastating for everybody, really, losing Lewis Hall, the form he's been on this season. Eddie said, I'm really disappointed for Lewis. We're devastated for him. He has had so much to look forward to. He had the cup final and then internationals coming up. He was in really good form. It's a big blow for him and for us. So basically, Eddie confirming there that I guess Thomas Tuchel was going to call him into the England squad. If Eddie's talking about the internationals coming up, which makes it even more devastating for Lewis Hall, because you've got to think New England manager, he'll really want to make a statement and go for it, and he's not going to be around in that first announced squad. It's gutting for him. Chris at Evermore says, I'm getting so annoyed with our fans on socials at the minute, attacking those who are upset about ticket increases and now just seen excited about Lascelles on grass. Well, look, we'll come on to the ticket prices in a minute. No apology is needed from Gordon. Let him do his talking on the pitch when he's back. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, Gordon will be hurting, guys, and I think you have to realise that he'll be really hurting. And does he need to come out and apologise to us? Probably not. I'm not expecting one. We'll know how he feels. Eddie spoke about it. I think the fact is we let it go. He's suspended for 3 days. Sorry, 3 games. I wish it was only 3 days. 3 games, and he'll be hurting. He'll be really hurting, and he want to prove a point when he comes back. Missing a cup final is huge, absolutely huge. So. Let's not dig him out anymore. Let's just let him get on with it, back in training. Eddie said that he's back in training, working hard. And, of course, we'll see how he does when he comes back. Lewis Hall is a huge miss for us because of the potential that he had, all that going on last season, thinking, why isn't Eddie playing him all the time? He looks a real star. He really, really worked a lot with Lewis Hall. Lewis Hall himself confirmed that, he wasn't ready. Eddie's worked with him brilliantly, and he's become a better player for it. So I love it. I love the way Lewis Hall's attitude is, and I'm gutted for him that he's going to miss the rest of the season. It's put us in a little bit of a predicament because, Eddie said the other day that he's happy with what he's got. He can't possibly be. He can't possibly be happy knowing that he's only got really 2 centre-backs in Fabian Schär and Dan Burn, and then, a makeshift one in Emil Kraft, who he doesn't seem to play very often. Now, there is, Lascelles is back training on grass, which is which is good. But he's not going to take part in a lot of the season, if at all. So, fans getting excited about Emil Kraft, about Jamal Lascelles. I wouldn't bother right now until we see him in a squad lineup. And you know what, Lascelles has done really well when he's come in under Eddie Howe. I think he's done really well, but he's not. You've got to remember, he's not the world beater. That he's not going to come back and take over the world, is he? His contract's running out end of the season. I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. But you know what? It's just really unfortunate. I mean, Eddie said that obviously ahead of the game at West Ham, he says it's a huge game for us. That can't be lost. We can't lose focus on the Premier League. The focus has been very good from the players this week. I see determination to do well in the game. We are looking forward to the challenge. Now, listen, Eddie says that a lot. When we get told that there's focus and they've really looked hungry in training, and then they go out on the pitch and it's like, well, hang on a minute. If this is hungry, then what the hell is starving going to be like? Because, they just haven't, there's been no fight within that team recently. Now, whether they sort this out behind the scenes, I have no idea. I would hope so. I would hope that there's been a lot of interaction between the players themselves and the manager, the coaching staff, to try and put this right, to try and move this club into the next gear, because we've been stuck in a low gear for a long time, apart from that 11 minutes against Forest when we seem to just go up the gears and destroy them, and then just disappeared by, 50 minutes. I mean, we were knackered. We were absolutely pagged. So, you know what? I expect us to go out really, really hungry on Monday. But listen, it's good to see Eddie saying that the focus has got to stay on the Premier League, because we've spoken about that, and not to look ahead too much. Because if we look ahead to the final and we take our eye off Monday night and we get a beating at West Ham, what kind of mindset does that put us in going into the final against one of the best teams in world football right now, who are hungry to deliver trophies? Arne Slot wants to win his first trophy at the club. This is a big opportunity for him. But the chance of Newcastle winning and what that would do for us as a football club, as a fan base, would be absolutely tremendous. So I want us to go to West Ham. I want us to perform. I want us to win the game and take that into Wembley. Take that momentum. And I hope Eddie's true to his word with that the players are fully focused on this game on Monday. Because there's a lot of people saying, oh, yeah, but the players will be worried about getting injured and all of this. Listen, these guys want to be elite. These guys want to be Champions League footballers. They're going to have to deal with this kind of thing on a regular basis. You can't switch off for just a couple of games and then put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. When Man City have gone on, these runs of constantly winning trophies, Pep Guardiola has not let those players drop their levels at all. If they're playing in games before cup finals, they still go at it. You look at the teams of the past at Manchester City. Yeah, they're having a dodgy season this year. However, you look at the teams of the past when they've won trophies and they've gone into games, before cup finals, but still focused on the league as well. They go out and do it. Yes, they've got a much bigger squad than us. Of course they have. But the mainstay of those players would play on a Monday night and then go into a cup final on a Sunday. And that is where our level needs to be. If we want to be at the level of a Manchester City or a Liverpool for that matter, we have to step up and realize that you play for each game. And you can't take your eye off one of them, because playing in Europe is going to be huge for this football club. Absolutely huge. So if we, God forbid, don't win the cup final, we have to concentrate and keep our momentum for the Premier League. Because if they drop tools, we'll soon slide down the league. And we all don't want that to happen. This club belongs in European football. No doubt about it, in my opinion. Newcastle United deserve to be playing in European football. The fans deserve it as well. The club is a huge, huge football club, which PIF are trying to make dominant in Europe, which is a long way off at the minute, granted. But these players that can come out on social media and say what they want, etc., they have to do it on the pitch. And they have to prove that they are up for every game. Recently, we've not seen that. The fight has been sort of drained, completely drained. And I don't know whether that's tiredness or what, I don't know. But the levels that this club wants to get to, you know, we have to keep going. We're in a very, very good position in the league. We're still in a good position, despite really not firing for a while in the league. We've picked up points and we are still in a good position. But April's going to be big for me because April is stacked, absolutely stacked with league games. And that is when it all comes to the crunch. If we have a very good April, we're going to be in a very good situation going into the final weeks of the season. Absolutely no doubt. But these players have to believe. The players have to show the intent. Now, he did speak about the previous week, of course, going out the FA Cup, learned about the injuries, and he said it's been one of those weeks that challenges you. In the job that I am in, you need to have a level head, clear thinking, and put everything into a perspective. We still have a very strong squad and a very strong team. We are going to miss the players that we are going to lose, and that's a big disappointment, but it's always someone else's opportunity, and we have to look at it that way. Now, I agree. I think it's a big opportunity for certain players, but on the flip side of that, you look and think, well, hang on a minute. Some of these players have been given the opportunity in the past, in very recent weeks, in fact, and haven't stepped up to the plate. You look at Harvey Barnes, who, you know, you'd think that when he's come on the pitch, you'd expect him to really push, really do something. But he hasn't. He had a good first half against Brighton, but they faded out the game. You need a player like Harvey Barnes to be on it for the full game. If you're going to play as a winger, you've got to be threatening all the time. When you get that ball, just do different things and create things for us. He's a fantastic shooter of the ball. He scored really good goals for us. But I just get the feeling that Harvey Barnes isn't that high up in the pecking order. You know, Eddie Howe spoke about him and said he's, you know, I think he was quite disappointed with Harvey Barnes on Sunday because he said Harvey had a big opportunity on Sunday, and you could see there was still points to his game where a little bit of rustiness, etc. Just don't think that Harvey Barnes is this answer. You know, I think, would I be more confident with a Joe Linton down the left? Probably. I mean, listen, Joe Willock hasn't played very well at all this season. He really hasn't. So you look back to the cup run of 2 years ago, Joe Linton and Willock down that left-hand side were absolutely blistering. They were superb to watch. And if they can kind of recreate that, would I rather have those two than Harvey Barnes right now? Yes, I would. No doubt about it. Because I've seen how good they can be. But Joe Willock hasn't hit the height since he's been injured. And that's been the problem for us. We just can't get the players going. And when players are, you know, you expect that those fringe players from the starting 11, you expect the players that come into the side would be chomping at the bit. Now, can anybody honestly say that they've seen Harvey Barnes come on the pitch chomping at the bit to prove Eddie wrong and get into the side and get a good run in the side? I don't think so. And that's a measure of maybe... I don't know. Is it the attitude of Harvey Barnes? Is that not right? Is it just that Harvey Barnes is maybe a little bit overrated than what we thought when we paid 40 million quid for him? I think that's an awful lot of money for Harvey Barnes. I think that was outrageous, actually. And I think a lot of fans agree with that it was far too much money. But the club are never going to say that. But if he does move on at the end of the season, they're not going to get anywhere near 40 million quid for Harvey Barnes because he hasn't played like a 40 million pound player. He scored some wonderful goals, don't get me wrong. But consistent performances are what you're looking from a 40 million pound player. And you ain't getting that from Harvey Barnes right now when it's really needed. Listen, he could play the next few games and be a world beater and really sort of change our minds. But right now, I'd be more confident with Willock and Joe Linton working down that left-hand side, providing Willock gets back to somewhere that we know he can play. There's been flashes of it, but not the massive big uprising that we would think from somebody who has a lot of talent. He was also asked about Joe Linton, of course. Fantastic news of Joe Linton getting put into the Brazilian squad. He said it's huge news for him, and I'm delighted for Joe. He is such a passionate guy. One of the highs on Sunday was to see him returning to his best way, running, chasing, winning balls, being a real enforcer for us in that midfield. It is a testament to his character that he is back in the Brazilian squad. You have to be very pleased for him. This is Joe Linton, who of course, talking of £40 million players, didn't look that at all in his first couple of years at Newcastle. He didn't even look like a £4 million player. And he took some hammer. However, he's now my favourite player after giving him grief for 2 years. I love Joe Linton. And if he can get back to how he plays, let's be honest, before he was out injured, he was probably playing through an injury. We all thought that. He just didn't look 100%. And now we've given him a bit of time out to recover. Hopefully we're going to get the Joe Linton back that we absolutely adore. But he's got to be disciplined. This is the thing with Big Joe. He was starting to lose discipline, wasn't he, in certain games, getting very frustrated. Teams were sort of, I don't know whether they were clamping onto the fact that they knew that if they got stuck into him, he would lose his temper and the discipline would spill over. And then when he wasn't getting free kicks or, he was getting kicked around, he would get frustrated with the referee. Joe's got to try and cut that down a little bit, I think, because if he keeps that up, that's going to get him nowhere. But the ball winning Joe Linton, the drive forward Joe Linton, that's what we want to see. Back in the side, a good run of games, and just basically get going. Now, Eddie Howe had a say on remaining united. And he said, we still have everything to play for. All those players coming into the team will feel like they can make a difference. You have to be ready to perform and to play. We've been working hard with the players behind the scenes so that everyone can play their part successfully in this period. Now, take that as what you will. I guess I'll say it again. We've heard it before. And I'm not trying to be negative here, but we have heard it before. The talking should be done on the pitch. Yes, Eddie's going to sit there in a press conference. Of course he is, and big the lads up and say, we've been working hard this week. We're determined with this, with that. Go and do it on the field. Go and do it on the pitch. Make sure that mindset on Monday night for the players that are going out there, the starting 11, is to get the game won. Get the game won. And, like we did when we were going through that win streak, get a few goals ahead and then in the second half, bring some of your elite players off ready for Sunday. That's fine. Start looking forward to the game on Sunday after the game at West Ham is won. But West Ham is not going to be just turn up and win at all, because as poor as West Ham have been, they've still got some really talented players in that starting 11 who will hurt us if we don't keep switched on. And defensively is a big problem for us against any sort of pace. Fabian Schär just isn't on it right now. And I think Dan Burnt's having to do the work of two defenders, which is causing Dan Burnt to make mistakes as well. But I just wish somebody had asked him about that, to be honest, because I'd love to know what the thinking is behind keep playing Fabian Schär. Because he's a liability right now. He's costing us goals. And West Ham's form has picked up recently, so it will be a very, very difficult game. Really difficult game. And if we're not ready for it, we will get beat. And I think everybody knows that. But I think we've got to go to West Ham on Monday and perform and get that morale and get going on some kind of confidence booster for the cup final. But that's just me sitting here as a fan saying that. The players have to go out there and do it. We have to see the manager make some very important decisions. And I don't mean leaving players out ahead of the cup final. We can't even think about the cup final till that West Ham game is done. We can't. Because if we, like I said before, if we lose that game at West Ham, there's no momentum going into the cup final. If we lose that as well, we've now got a very big, yes, there's an international break, a couple of weeks to recover from it. But how many times have we said they've had a good rest and they've come back looking extremely shattered? But you go to Wembley, you win the you win the Carabao Cup, you beat Liverpool. Just think what that'll do for the whole, the fan base. The players themselves become legends because they finally broke this hoodoo of not winning a trophy for 70 years domestically. This is a big one. Big one. Susan, yes, I agree. Dan Burn has been outstanding this season. But what I'm saying is because he's having to do the work now of two defenders covering Cher's arse all the time, it leads to him making mistakes. And that's not necessarily Dan Burn's fault. It's because he's running around all over the place because Cher's so out of position all the time. And I feel for Dan Burn. But Dan Burn isn't a spring chicken either. And the fact is, he shouldn't have to do the work of two centre-backs. He certainly wouldn't have to do the same sort of workload he's got if Emil Kraft was next to him right now. But he's not. And that's the worry. Now, finally, I want to talk about the ticket prices because there seems to be quite a bit of backlash right now on the socials regarding the announcement from Newcastle that the prices are going up. Many people are putting it across as, look, we haven't signed a player for 3 years, yet you put the season tickets up. Where is the fairness in that? And what's really burnt my piss, right? And I will say this, is that you've got fans on social media saying, oh, well, if you don't want to pay for the ticket, we'll gladly have it. What I would say to those people is, where were you when we were shit? Where were you? You didn't want the season ticket then, but all of a sudden now you want to take a season ticket off somebody who's working their ass off to afford one. I feel really strongly about this, okay? I admit I gave my season ticket up under the Ashley era, but then I realised, no, I'm a Newcastle United fan. I got it back. Even when we were playing absolute dross, I got it back. And there was a lot of fans decided not to pay Ashley any money. And for those fans, listen, that's fine. I get where you're coming from, who didn't want to pay anything to that football club under Mike Ashley. And I get that. But I think it's a little unfair for people to have a go at the current season ticket holders because they're complaining because of a price rise in tickets. I don't agree with that because I think the season ticket holders have a right to be angry that the season tickets have gone up. When you look at the fact that we haven't bought any players for 3 transfer windows, yet these fans keep going to the ground week in, week out, paying the money for the season tickets. And just because some fans have made it known that they're unhappy about the price increase, suddenly you've got fans having a go at them, saying, how dare you have a go at the club if you don't want to go. They're not saying they don't want to go. They're saying they're not happy with the hike in prices, but they do still want to go. The fans aren't turning around and saying, we don't want to go. All they're not happy about is the fact that the season tickets have risen in prices. Those fans still want to go to watch Newcastle. So don't call them out for having a go that the prices have gone up. I find it a little bit disturbing. And to be honest, look, some people may turn around and say, right, I can't afford it. And they will give their season tickets up. You have to be sensible with this. If you can't afford to go, then you can't afford it. That's just the way life is. However, we know that the Newcastle fan base will do anything they can to pay the money for season tickets and make sure they go week in, week out to watch their team. So I really think that when I'm seeing comments of like, oh, well, re-quoting and things like that, saying, well, if you complain, and we'll take your ticket off you. I mean, I think it's a bit silly because the people that have got the season tickets now have a right to say, that they're not happy about the ticket prices going up. But it certainly doesn't mean they don't want to go back to watch the club. They're asking the question as to why they're putting the prices up when we've bought nobody in. And the revenue for season ticket prices doesn't really contribute very much. We saw that in the release of the finances. It's not the be all and end all. So putting the prices up is a little bit strange. Ronald says tickets need to go up for the wages alone for the players we have. Tom says we'll still do it, but we make sacrifices to do so. I didn't go on holiday. Yep. Chris says there's a deeper society issue here with people's selfish actions and ideologies. Big Dom was one of them that gave up his season ticket and said it's hard luck. Yeah, I'm disappointed I can't get in, but what can you do? Yeah. I mean, that's the way to look at it. It's just the way life is. But that doesn't say that they can't turn around and say, well, hang on, I'm really happy the price is gone. Of course you're not going to be happy. And you've got a right to say that you're not happy. But that doesn't give anybody a right to have a go at them and say, oh, well, if you don't want your ticket, I'll take it off you. Jesus, wept, man. Come on. Ken says, love your words, Paul. We all knew prices would go up. It's normal. Agree, hate paying more, but will be, as losing ticket would be worse than a price increase. Yeah. And look, hopefully, what I will say is, hopefully, if we do build this new stadium, then when we find out what's going on, more people will get in. Now, hopefully it's not going to be corporate shit and all that, because at the end of the day, Newcastle United need the fans in the ground. They need them in the ground. And, it will be great to see fans that haven't been able to get a season ticket get one, right? I'll be really pleased for them. But don't have a go at the current season ticket holders because they complain the prices have gone up. I mean, they've got a right to say that, guys. They really do. I mean, people might not agree with what I'm saying on here. That's fair enough. If you've got a different opinion to me, that is also fair enough. I understand where you're coming from as well. The frustration of not being able to get a season ticket. But at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. People may not be able to afford tickets. There might be tickets become available. You just have to wait and see. But don't have a go at anybody for, just questioning the price increase as to why they put them up. I'm sure Newcastle will come out in due course and explain everything. And Johnny, you're right. It is frustration. I get that. It's frustration from fans thinking, oh, I want to go. And then they see people complaining about prices. I get that. I get that there's a lot of frustration out there. But I think that frustration should be aimed elsewhere and not really at people that have already got season tickets, because that's unfair. But I just wanted to have me say on that. But thank you very much for watching the show this morning, guys. Don't forget, we are back tonight at 7 o'clock with TTR Friday. TTR Friday is going to, have the same usual segments in it, and good banter and a good laugh. Basically what we do on TTR Friday now, as we've separated the fan forum to a separate show. So TTR Friday, we're going to call it, we're going to look back on the Newcastle United news from this week, all the talking points, rediscuss them again. It's like a bit of a sort of magazine show, if you like, but we'll still have the usual laughs and segments in it as well. So please tune into that. We'll get into Eddie Howe's press conference again. We'll get into the injuries and all of the stuff on TTR Friday tonight. So join us at 7 o'clock for that. But thank you very much for watching, guys. Mods, thank you very much. And have a great Friday, everybody. And we'll see you back at 7 o'clock tonight. Take care.
Come back and check out some green.